All right, so welcome back again to our fourth forum in our Women in Local Leadership series. It's our, we kicked off this series in 2020, believe it or not, to highlight some of the region's top women leaders. And we're very, very fortunate to have with us today Carol Bulman and Kaitlin Clifford. I'm going to take just a couple minutes here this morning to give you a quick bio for both of them, but we're just really happy to have both of them here today. We have some other leaders here on the phone with us today, some former board members and current and past chairs. So I'll just recognize a couple of them, and please don't be offended if I don't name you, and maybe Peter will jump in here. But Ken, Renee, George, yeah, I think Ken, Renee, and George I see. So thank you all for your leadership. We couldn't do the work that we do without the business leadership that you provide to the region. So I just want to thank you for that. Hopefully I didn't miss anyone. And of course, Darlene, for serving on our board and exec as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get us started. I'm going to do a quick bio for both Kaitlin and Carol, and then I'm going to hand the floor over to Kaitlin to take us through a little bit about leadership and what it means to Carol and herself. So Kaitlin Clifford is the Director of Strategic Development for Jack Conway. Her responsibilities include strategic planning and operational oversight, business development and expansion efforts, property management, marketing, financial planning and analysis, and philanthropic activities. Prior to joining Jack Conway, Kaitlin was a vice president at Morgan Stanley, where she served in a variety of roles over her 10-year career. Kaitlin serves on the board of trustees of the NVNA and Hospice Charitable Fund, and we welcomed her this year as a director to the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. So Kaitlin, thank you. She is the eldest of Carol's daughters. Carol Bulman is the president and CEO of Jack Conway & Co., the largest locally based independent real estate firm in America. Conway has 30 offices with over 700 agents working from Swampscott to Cape Cod. Carol is the daughter of late Jack Conway, who founded the business in Hingham Square in 1956. She has more than 30 years of experience in her family's firm and in the Bay State housing and mortgage industries. Carol feels strongly about the importance of community involvement, which I'm sure we'll hear about later, and currently serves on a number of state and local organizations, including the New England Advisory Council of the Federal Bank of Boston, the South Shore Health Board of Trustees, and the leading real estate companies of the world. She co-chaired our what is now South Shore 2030 initiative a few years back, and has served on the Chamber Board and is currently a trustee for our South Shore Economic Development Corp. We're very excited again to have both of you here. And with that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Kaitlin.
Thank you so much, Courtney, for that nice welcome. I first want to thank the Chamber. I think, the Chamber has been such an important part of our business and our family for a really long time. And you did such a great job organizing this. We're so happy that so many people have joined and to hear a little bit about my mom's story. I joined the company about 4 years ago. And I was fortunate to work under a wonderful leader who happened to be a woman. I've also had the privilege of having that leadership in my life since I was a little kid. So I've been very fortunate for that. And I think just starting off, Mom, obviously I know a lot about your background and how you got here, where you started and how hard you worked to really grow this company and make it what it is today. But I thought you could give the people on a call an idea of how you got here in your journey to CEO.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kaitlin. Thank you, Courtney, and all the members of the South Shore Chamber Board, and Renee, and thank you for your leadership this year, Renee. Really appreciate it. It's a really honor to be here. I was saying before we came on, this is a special honor for me to be here with my daughter. You don't really think about what your life is going to be like when 10 years, 20 years, in this case, 30 plus years ahead. And to be here on this program and be interviewed by my daughter is actually pretty neat. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. It's not truly fascinating, but it's a story of sort of a staying very committed and being very passionate about what I do. I was thinking about one of the moments. I actually have to give you a little disclaimer. I have a new puppy, and every once in a while you're going to hear little sounds, and that's her tearing things apart and chewing things. So just wanted to let you know, my COVID puppy, or my empty nester puppy. So, I was thinking about one of my memories is when I turned 14 years old. I was really excited because my mother could drive me down to the Social Security office in Hanover to get my working papers. That was a big day for me. I couldn't wait to get a job. And so I worked with my dad right at 14 years old. I worked out of our building on 183 Columbia Ave in Hanover, which many of you may have known, sadly burned to the ground this year. But we are in the process of rebuilding, and we've already broken ground. So that's very exciting. But that was my first job. And I just always liked to work with my dad. I like to work. I mean, that was sort of what I envisioned for myself, and I enjoyed it. So after a stint of waitressing for several years during high school and college, and I have to say I wasn't really super good at it, I did start working in our mortgage business. The company was called Northern Mortgage Company at the time. This was in 1983. The rates were over 20%. It was a very different time than it was today. And I was to be married 2 years after that and start our family. So I loved working in my dad's mortgage company. I sort of fell in love with that business. And it was nice to be working in a parallel business to my dad. That was a really wonderful experience for us. We had a lot in common. We had a lot to talk about, and we had a lot of same interests. So, that part of family business was a really positive aspect for me. And, my husband, Michael, and I started our family very young in our 20s. And we have 4 children. Katie is our oldest. And I'm very fortunate. All 4 of them live here in Scituate. And all 8 of my grandchildren are here in Scituate. So we're very, very lucky. Family is very important to us. And we all work together at one level or another. 3 of the 4 of them work with me at Conway. So I grew up in the mortgage side of things. And again, it was a really great experience. Several years later, my father had sold that company, and we started a new company. I was able to do that on my own, and that was an exciting opportunity. So I worked in the mortgage business for many years. I actually, as my children got older, they came to their teenage years, I actually left the company for 7 years. I'll save that part of it to when we talk about transition and family business. And then I returned about 11 years ago, and my father named me CEO. So that was at the tail end of the Great Recession. So I've learned so much in this role. I love what I do. It is so wonderful having my children work with me. It makes it that much better. So it's been a wonderful journey, and I've had a lot of great opportunities.
Great. So, Mom, I know you're a great leader, and I think we've had so many people within our company mention, one of the reasons they love working for our company is because they want to work for a woman, which in some cases is still really unique to have a leader that is a woman that is so strong and that has been so successful in taking our company to the next level from when you did take over 11 years ago. Growing up, glass ceiling did not exist in our house, the concept of a glass ceiling. In grade school, I remember drawing a picture of what I wanted to be when I grow up, and it was a woman in a business suit with a briefcase going to work, and that's what I thought was normal for a woman to do. However, as I grew older and I grew in my career myself, I grew to appreciate how really impressive it was, the role that you were in growing that mortgage company as you're growing up, and how successful that mortgage company was. Corey and I used to go into the office on weekends with you and play president and secretary. And, we learned from a very young age to work hard. But it is unique in some cases. And I think it's very impressive, just your role as a leader, woman or not. But given in the spirit that this is about women in leadership, how have you navigated this? And, there are a lot of women on this call, and what advice would you give them to grow in their own careers as they look to move forward?
It's interesting. I was thinking when you said the words glass ceiling, I thought back, there was a book that was very, very popular back in the, I guess it was the late 80s, early 90s, and it was called Breaking the Glass Ceiling. And any of the women that are on the call that are my contemporaries probably remember that book. And I think what's interesting about that concept is there was a glass ceiling at that time, and it was something that was extremely real. And I always sort of felt that I was just going to plunge forward and just be who I am and work hard. And I tried not to think too much about it, almost like blinders when you see a horse in a carriage. And I think that worked pretty well for me. I tried not to dwell too much on that because, to be honest with you, I feel that women leaders bring something very unique to the table, whether it's the board table or to leadership or a staff position or a healthcare position or nonprofits. I think we bring something very unique, and I love having the different voice at the table. You know, this year has been a year of focusing on perspectives and having a lot of different perspectives in the room. And I think we've all learned over the last 6, 8, 10 months with some of the social stress that's out there is having different perspectives at the table is really important. It's not about just having someone to check off a box. That's not what it is. It's inviting people that have different ways of looking at things. Men have one way of looking at things, women have the other. We share a lot of the same, but I think it gives a more rich experience. So I think what's wonderful, I think as a leader, I think it's really important as a woman not to pretend not to be a woman when you're in leadership, because some of the things that are your typical female attributes, like empathy and listening and caring and emotions. You know, I sort of grew up in a home, and this was very generational, that emotions were sort of, you know, you got to keep the emotions to yourself. And I think a lot of us grew up that way. And I've learned as a leader that if we can treat the people we work with around, whether they're our superiors, our people that work for us, or people work with, and talk things through, just like we would in a healthy family unit, then we're going to be better business people. So I think there is a big bleed between our business life and our personal life, or I think there should be. And if we allow that and allow ourselves to be completely ourselves when we're in business, I think better. I think blending the two is wonderful. And of course, I'm in real estate, so there's a huge blend between personal and business, in our business in particular, but I think there should be in all businesses. So I think that's helped. I think, you know, just be yourself, lean in, and make yourself heard. Don't stand back. I think that's important.
And I know you don't do that. So
by the way, Kate was always president and Corey was always the secretary.
Exactly. You talked a little bit about emotions, and I think that's one of the great things about you as a leader. I know our agents and our staff really appreciate it. I think particularly this past year has been really hard for a lot of people, and you've really showed that leadership in, you know, calling our agents, calling our staff members, finding ways to check in with people even though you're not there in person, which I know is hard for a lot of people. A lot of people feel isolated. And, you know, I think the year itself has been a difficult one. I mean, I'm in my basement office right now, and I remember, you know, back in March, the two of us sitting down here and looking at numbers thinking, oh my God, the entire real estate market is going to shut down, and what are we going to do? And we're looking at our expenses and things like that, and probably went through that process for about a month. I think given that we've seen really almost the opposite in months after that in the real estate market, it's been really tumultuous. And, you know, we've been fortunate that it has been strong in our area in the last couple of months. I think for the benefit of everyone on the call, can you give a little bit of an overview on what's been going on in the market, what you're seeing, what, you know, our agents are seeing, and then, you know, an outlook for the future? You know, sitting on that Fed board, you have a lot of knowledge on the economy as a whole, and, you know, what people can predict for the future.
Sure. You know, I want to first start by thanking Peter, because he actually put my name forward for that position on the Federal Reserve Advisory Committee. And it really has been one of the highlights of my career. And I had the opportunity to listen to the Fed Chair, Eric Rosengren, every 4 weeks. And it's just been a fascinating experience, especially this year. And so let me tell you a little bit about what I share when I have to do my report outs to the Fed Chair. Is this has been a wild year. We've all found this to be a wild year. So let me tell you the story from a real estate perspective, the real estate industry perspective, and I'm mainly focusing on residential. We also do commercial, as most of you know, but I'm mainly focusing on residential. The first quarter of 2020, we were rocking and rolling. We were up 20%. Units are up, volume is up, units are down. I mean, inventory is down. So our inventory is our listings. Where George told me his inventory, which I know you're dealing with inventory issues right now too, or refrigerators and stoves. Our inventories are homes. And we went into the pandemic with a very low inventory. We were suffering with inventory issues last year and the year before and the year before that. Basically because of the very strong real estate market and strong GDP and low unemployment, all these things that you guys are aware of, and of course, low interest rates. So we went into the pandemic with a strong, thank goodness, because that helped us for the next quarter. So Q1, check mark, everything was going well. Pandemic hit. Katie talked about me literally hunkering down in her basement. I'm so fortunate because Katie brings to our company incredible financial background. And she doesn't have it formally in her title. She probably should, but she acts in very much as my CFO. And we put together a number of mitigation examples, and you all did this as well. Best case, mid case, worst case, and then of course for several months we experienced them. And what was a little different about real estate, and this is the part that completely surprised me, I never would have anticipated this, is human behavior. So first of all, the real estate industry was not shut down. We were always open. We all remained open, and I put air quotes on that because it was very different. We didn't have traditional open houses. We didn't have traditional uptime or opportunity time for my realtors. My offices were mainly closed at the time, except to drop off something or pick up a check or make a copy. But for the most part, we were closed physically, but open for our service. So all of my realtors learned very quickly, if they didn't already know, how to work remotely, just like all of you guys did on the call. We all had to learn Zoom. We had to learn all the different tools and technology. So actually, I think this pandemic, as much as it's been a horrible experience and some worse for others, it's been an incredible opportunity to learn and grow. I can personally say that. So our second quarter was basically a mirror image of our first quarter. We dropped significantly. Our inventory drops even more significantly because, of course, and maybe some of you on the call had this experience, you have your house on the market, a pandemic hits, we have no idea how it spread, how do we behave, can my home be shown, can people leave germs behind, etc. So a lot of people took their properties off the market. So there was this very quiet stage. Anyone that was looking for property at that point really wanted to buy a home. But there were people looking for properties. So that's the part that was so crazy. Inventory really went down, so we had less properties to sell. Meanwhile, buyers are coming out of the woodwork. And when I say coming out of the woodwork, I really mean coming out of the woodwork, because our big buyer base at that point was the older millennial. The older millennial who graduated from college, moved into the city, to the Seaport, South Boston, South End, Dorchester, and lived the city life for a while. And then maybe they had decided they were thinking about going to the suburbs, maybe planning on getting married. Stan and Miriam Blackmer were just talking about their two boys who just, one of them just got married and another one is getting married. So they're your typical person that I'm talking about. So they say, hey, we just got married, or maybe they want to start a family. And a person starting a family is a big lever for real estate sales, right? That's obvious. All of a sudden they think, oh, I need another room to put a crib in, and I need a yard for the child. So that was a big lever for people wanting to buy homes. So we had people, millennials, coming out into the suburbs looking at properties. Remember, these are folks that were working in offices. Now they're working at home. They have time. They can hop in the car and go down to Situate or Cohasset or Duxbury and start looking at a piece of property. I'll give you one example. One of my daughters, Katie's younger sister, Corey, is one of our top agents out of Situate. And she had a property on the market, and it was perfect for the first-time home buyer first-time home buyer for Situate. It was about a $550,000 property. And she said, Mom, I left my brochures at home. Would you mind picking them up, bringing them to me? And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. So I did that. I drove up and oh my gosh, literally there were cars lining Old Oaken Bucket Road, people waiting in their car, gloves, masks, for her to text them to say it was their turn to look at the property. And I'm not exaggerating when I say there were 50 cars up and down the street. So a big supply and demand story, right? Because you have all these buyers and meanwhile, not enough inventory. So business started to come back. It came back, it came back. The other thing too is the people that are employed, unfortunately we had a very high unemployment rate, mostly focused on the service industries. The service industries are not necessarily your buyers. Oftentimes they're your renters. So it didn't affect real estate as much. So real estate, you have all these people that normally might be traveling. They might go into restaurants every Thursday and Friday night, doing things, going to the movies, going to theater, being out, but they still have money in their pocket. They're still working. So what can they buy? They could buy a house. So what we are now seeing to kind of close that out is third quarter ended up very, very high. We now for the year will close out about 10% higher in units over last year, but about little less than 20% higher in volume because the sales prices have increased about 14% this year over last year. So it's been a really incredible story. We do anticipate this continuing. I read something recently and I just loved it. It made so much sense. Real estate happens at the intersection of life and change. And life and change are going to continue this year because now people's lives will change again. So as long as the rates stay down, employment stays down, and people feel good about their future, then I do see housing continuing to be strong, which means prices will continue to go up. So that's something to keep in mind.
Great. Well, we hope so, right? Mom, you used that example of that, the story of bringing brochures to Corey at her open house. I think many people think of Conway as synonymous with a family business because we truly are a real family business. It's something I think I'm most proud of about our company. And, our dinners are, half business, half, what are we doing with the kids? And it's fluid and it kind of works. And it's kind of always been that way. So it's all that we really know. That being said, family business doesn't come without its challenges. So there's obviously things here and there that come up or, there's adjustments that need to be made on, how we do things and how we lead our business. So, when you took over from Grampy, how specifically did you establish your leadership style different from him? Because you are very different. I think you're both very successful at running this company, but watching him and watching you, you both have your own way about doing things. You both, really connect with people, but it's not exactly the same. And I think that is something that really made you a stronger leader because you didn't try to be just like him. You did something different. Another question on that is really, for people on this call that are in family businesses, what advice would you give to them to navigate that that hurdle?
Wow, there's a lot there. And I probably could talk for about 2 hours on that question. So I will try to keep it a little bit tight because there's some important points there. First of all, I think it's really important anytime we work in family business, and there's a lot of people on this call that are second gen, and Katie, of course, now is our third generation, which I'm so proud of. And I know Grampy would be as well. But it is really important to be true to yourself. You can get lost in family business. And you can get lost in just the all-encompassingness of it. I'm not sure if that's a real word, but with my dad and me, my dad and I had very, very strong personalities. Any of you that knew us know that. Katie certainly knows that. And so we clash sometimes. And, I think Peter Forman knows that we clash at times. And, I used to say to my Dad, you brought me up to be this way. It's your fault. And I would say that I can't be a leader unless I'm strong. And I know Katie's as strong as I am. She might be a little bit quieter about her strengths, but she's very strong. And I think it's really important to allow for those differences And I think what was really great for my dad and I is we were on a parallel course for a long time. I was on the mortgage side, he was, firmly on the real estate side, and that worked really, really well. It was more difficult once I started transitioning over to the real estate company. He and I had to elicit some assistance for that. It was not without his stress. But it was still something that was really important to both of us. So we were steadfast and moved forward. As far as my children are concerned, yeah, it's a bit of a whirlwind. We've got a big family. There's a lot going on. We do have to be careful. I have to be careful in particular about not bringing up work all the time. I have a hard time shutting off. And I know that's important to shut off. And it's not fair to the kids to be talking about work all the time. So I don't, it's not fair for our spouses as well. So I really work at it. I try to read their expressions and their faces. I can usually tell. Katie's a good barometer for me. If maybe I need to, tone it down, shut it off for a minute. And then the other part is, I think being a mom sort of helps, I tend to be, this is maybe a sexist statement, I'm not sure, so I apologize for the gentleman on the call, but, moms are sort of the peacekeepers in the family. We're all trying to make sure everybody's getting along. So I take that role really seriously. I certainly don't want to be the person that's causing a problem for the family. So I try really hard to be aware of it, but I have to really pay attention and listen and talk to my kids. So that would be my advice. Listen and talk to kids.
Nice. You talked a little bit about the differences between you and Grampy and, how we are all different as we grow up. One of the things I think we all have in common, and that has always been something we've been on the same page about, is our commitment to the community. I think the culture and the values of both our company and our family has always been, it's our obligation to give back and be involved in our community. I know you showed that, Grampy and Nan have shown that, and I think the four of us are very proud to continue that. Can you talk a little bit about how this has shaped you personally and professionally in your involvement in different community efforts?
Sure, that's actually a really big part of my belief system, and I positively got that from my dad, 100%, but also my mother. My mother actually was very involved in Father Bill's Mainspring House at the time, the homeless shelter in Brockton and Quincy. And they brought that to our family very early on. So volunteerism was really important. I volunteered in a nursing home in Cohasset when I was in high school. It wasn't something that you just, oh, gee, you're special because you volunteer. You just volunteer. That's what you do. It's more of an obligation than just a nice thing to do. So I was brought up that way. And I worked hard to try to bring my children up that way as well. Because, I think we have an obligation in this world to reach out to others. And as a result, my life is so full. I have so many great relationships. There's many nonprofit organizations that are represented on this call, from healthcare to education to homelessness and, feeding the hungry. You all do so much. And it's our job to give back. And, I have to share something. Katie graduated from BC a number of years ago, and we were at her graduation, and Jack Connors, the former CEO of Hill Halliday, he might still be CEO, he was the speaker, and he was congratulating all the different schools, and he congratulated this school of, the health and education and social services, and told them, take care of people's hearts and take people that are more in need, and went through every single one of the schools. Then he came to the Carroll School of Business, which Katie graduated at. And they said, and to the members of the Carroll School of Business, make a lot of money so you could help all of them. And, that really stuck with me, because we all make a choice in this world. We make the choice to either work in a nonprofit or in healthcare or in a for-profit company. But our obligations are all the same. We still have to make sure that we have an opportunity to give back. So not only has that part of it been important, but I had the opportunity to meet so many wonderful people that I call friends. Renee is an example of that. All my friends at South Shore Hospital. There's many special people on this call that I've met that have made a lot of impact. But in addition to that, not only just nonprofit in way of charitable organizations, but also chambers of commerce and business organizations. that was another thing that my dad, he taught me that, it was just something you did. It wasn't something that, geez, maybe I should do that. You just did it. And as a result, my life as a person and as a business person has been more full. And have I received business as a result? Yeah, I've received some business as a result, but that's not the reason why you go into it. You go into it to give, and the more you give, you may receive. And so I'm just, if anyone is just sort of dabbling in the idea of the chamber, or maybe trying to decide, should I do something with social services or charitable organizations, I recommend you dive in. And I also always recommend to people, don't just join a committee and stand in the corner and don't say anything, because you're not helping. Join a committee, jump in, find out what you can do to help, make a phone call. If you find it overwhelming and think, oh gosh, I'm not sure if this is my comfort zone, ask the people that are running the committee how you can help. And they can give you something that fits you. And I assure you, not only will you grow in business, but you will grow personally as well. That has been my experience.
Great. Courtney, with that, I think, do you want to open it up to some questions?
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. That was so awesome. So excited to have both of you here, and just really, really fascinating to hear your story, and to just kind of get to know you a little bit better. So I want to just go ahead and open up the floor for questions. You're welcome to just maybe unmute yourself, or use the raise hand function, or chat the question. Darlene, I see your hand first, so you're up.
I'm curious as if you actually encouraged your kids to join the business, or if they did it on their own accord.
Hi, darling. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
That is such an awesome question, because first of all, my dad didn't encourage me. So I want to say that, and I know that's not your question. He just, he was a power of example, I guess I would say. No, I didn't encourage any of my children to join the business. They all came at different points in their careers. Some had already done a career before, like Katie. She was in finance for 11 years and then joined the company, and has so much to offer. My daughter, Corey, who's in sales, was on a science route. She was a biology and anatomy teacher at Marshfield High, and had just gotten her master's in neurobiology. And then she started a family and started selling real estate, and is really good at it, and it works. My son, Michael, on the other hand, did join right from college. He went to Bridgewater State, graduated from Bridgewater State, and he joined when he was in college. He had an internship in South Boston and just fell in love with the business and loves it and is very good at it as well. Our son, Jack, was a firefighter with Situate. He actually works for our family business, but not the real estate company. My husband owns marinas, and he runs the marina business with my husband. So we had a lot of family business going, and they also do all the snow plowing for our properties. So they're all out today getting the snow plows ready and doing property management for some of our clients. So
I'll just give a shout out too for Jack, who is our property manager at the hospice house. So you have a property management line of business as well. And it's a lifesaver for us because I am not a property manager, nor do I want to be. So this has been great, really great to have your team. And I know I can trust that if something goes wrong in the middle of the night, we just call Jack and his team. It's great.
Renee, thank you. And thank you for the opportunity. By the way, that wouldn't have happened if Renee and I both weren't members of the board. I mean, the chamber, because that's how we met. And I always forget something, but yes, we have a property management company that Jack and Katie work together on, and we are the proud opportunity to work with Rural VNA. So one of our partners. So thank you.
Great. Angela, do you want to ask a question?
Sure. Having worked with my dad for 2 years now, formally, what's your favorite part of working with family in the family business?
So are you Jay Ness's daughter?
I am.
Oh, okay. I thought so when you said that. I said, okay, I know that name. So I'm also in real estate. Yes. And Jay's got a great reputation. So what's my favorite part?
And Kaitlin can answer it too.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear both perspectives.
All right. So I'm gonna say my favorite part now, absolutely hands down, is that I get to work with my children. I never thought in a million years that I would be working this closely with my kids. And I mean that, like that. I'm not just saying that. It's not just, something I think that would be a good line. I love working with my kids. What about you, Kate?
Yeah, I think, in my previous career, it was on a trading floor. It was kind of rigid. There was no personal nature to work at all. It was just, you get there, you work for 14 hours, and then you go home, and that was it. And I think working with my brothers and sisters and my mom and, my dad, and I think getting to build something together and being aligned with the same goals, it's just that much more satisfying that you can do it as a family and you can do it as a team than if you were just doing it on your own. And I think it's fun and it's something we can build and we like it and we like working together and we're all really competitive, which is kind of fun sometimes too. So, it's really worked out well.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Good luck, Angela. My best to you and your family.
Thank you.
I just have a question, because I know both of you, Carol, in your career, and Katie have worked in a corporate environment, and then also now in a family business, which is a corporation. But what do you find as, because all of us as leaders sometimes find the challenges of, moving the team all in the same direction, accountability, all of the things that we work towards when we know as the CEO of the company that we have this strategic plan and these are the goals we want to meet in getting there. So do you find your leadership style changed with, leading your children versus the leadership team you may have had before they came on?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Kate, I have to figure out if my leadership changes. Maybe it has changed. I think, well, I will say I've definitely changed with time. I will say that. As I've gotten older, I think my leadership my style has refined a bit. I think some of the attributes that makes me comfortable being a leader, sometimes I need to rein in a bit, so some of those strengths that we have, sometimes I got to pull back a bit. And I think I've done that more as I've gotten older. As far as my kids go, maybe it's just a little bit more fun. It's just, we laugh a lot, and, but on the other hand, we have really high expectations of ourselves and each other. And sometimes I think that's an awful thing that I did to my children. But so I'm not sure if it's actually changed. I don't know. Katie, what do you think?
I actually think I've learned a lot from you in terms of your leadership style. I personally found it really difficult when I joined the company originally 3 or 4 years ago because I was trained in an environment to be blunt, to be harder. I had a boss once that said, if you think you're being a-hole, like you're not being enough of one, and you have to push harder and you have to be better and things like that, because every man in this company is going to step over you. And so I adjusted to that and I learned from that. And then I was, and then I came to this, family loving culture company, and acting like that way, I think really hurt people's feelings sometimes. So I had to really rein that in and unlearn all that I had learned on Wall Street and then and I think my mom really taught me that a lot, because I think, trying to manage, real estate agents and, our staff are wonderful people, that blunt, aggressive nature doesn't always work. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge for me. And I think my mom really taught me that, because I know she's competitive and she's hard and she has high standards for people, but her way of delivering it to people is a lot softer sometimes, and it's just as effective.
I had to teach Katie, throw in a couple exclamation points and smiley faces in your emails.
Carol, I think you're way too young to probably be even thinking on these terms, but given your competitive, successful children all involved, have you even started thinking about a succession plan? And how do you do that when you have all of those wonderful competitive children involved?
I actually love that question, Linda. It's good to see you, Linda. I'm sure you've been very busy through all this.
Indeed.
No, I think that's a really good question. And I really want to make sure that we start planning ahead. I also don't want any of my kids to feel obligated to do anything they don't want to do. And all 4 of them have very different personalities. And so I thought at first that I would have like formal meetings, throughout the, have an agenda. And so have people express themselves. But then I actually found that it's actually become much more natural. And one sort of layer to this, going back a bit, when I took over the company, my dad thankfully was still with us. And so we worked together for a while. We own quite a bit of real estate as well as a family. And so my dad always ran the real estate. So when he passed away, my husband stepped into that. So we actually run the real estate together too. So it's not, that's in a way, one of the more complicated part of succession is the real estate piece. So I have started thinking about it. I don't have any plans for quote retirement anytime too soon, but I also think I do need to keep my eyes open to opportunity and learning experience. So for instance, I'll give an example. First of all, we talk about it very openly. My daughter, my son, Michael, has already made it very clear he wants to be CEO. So he's already told everybody that. Katie, I'm not sure really wants that, but she'll have to, they can fight it out. So we can talk about that. But Katie, as my husband always says, okay, Michael can be CEO, but Katie's always gonna have the checkbook. So, we joke around a little bit, but they all have really strong personality. So whatever their title is, it doesn't really matter. I just know that there's probably over the years, there's going to be some of them that will want to be more involved than the others. And then, so we're building our building in Hanover, very excited about it. And I'm building out space. Katie's office is right next to mine. And but I'm building out space for all of the kids to have kind of a touchdown spot. So even though they don't need to work around Katie and me because they're in sales and they're different jobs, I'd like them to be around so they can kind of hear the ongoings of running the business. And then they can start determining whether that's even for them. Because Katie's the one that's actually part of the executive team. She's really outside of Al Becker, who's my COO. Katie's my other right hand, and they all know that. And, I think that's pretty clear. But I don't think any of them are really ready for that, for them personally, because they really love their jobs right now, what they're doing. But we're already talking about it, trying to get some of the financial stuff sort of in order with partners and estate attorneys, that type of thing, because you just never know, you don't know. So that was a little rambly, that answer, but it is something that's on my mind sometimes.
Thanks, Carol. I'm going to maybe just jump in with a question that was submitted ahead of time, and then I'll maybe take 1 or 2 more questions if you have time, and then we'll wrap up for the day. I want to be cognizant of time, but someone did send in a question. How do you see the regional arts and culture playing a role in attracting talent to the area, especially with attracting new leaders to live and work on the South Shore?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. First of all, gosh, I wish we could have more arts and culture part of our lives right now. I mean, what a wonderful concept of getting back to that. So that's my first comment. Second, I think for people purchasing a home today, people are not just looking for a house. They're looking for a lifestyle. They're looking for, I'll use an example. I had a referral recently of someone I know based on a board seat that I have. And I was talking to him and his wife. And, we talked about things like, do you like to walk? Do you like nature? Do you like water? Do you like to be able to walk to restaurants? It wasn't all about, do you want 4 bedrooms and 4 baths? It's about, what is your life going to look like? Are you interested in the arts? Are you interested in music and theater? And, I think often, people think about theater, they think about going into the city, but there's so much theater on the South Shore. And there's so much music on the South Shore. I think the more that we get the word out that there is, I think the richer our communities will be, and the more we'll attract more jobs and more people to our community.
I have a question. You spoke about house prices and that you anticipate them rising. I'm preparing to buy my first house probably in the next 6 to 8 months. And I'm curious, with your connection to the Fed, if you could speak a little bit to the economic forecast as it relates to interest rates, just your perspective that you're hearing.
First of all, congratulations, Kathleen. That's really exciting. You
Thank
are
you.
the typical person that we're seeing so much looking at housing, and you know I'd be happy to help you out and introduce you to a realtor.
Thank
when you're
you.
ready. I have to say that. My dad always taught me to say that.
Thank you.
But as far as the Fed goes and interest rates, basically most of their most of the economists that I'm listening to right now are anticipating rates to stay down. I don't think the Fed, they'll keep a real close eye on inflation. That would be the only thing that might shift that a little bit. But at this point, the Fed plays an extremely important role in our economy right now. And it's really important that we jumpstart our economy. Basically, most of the economists are now saying that we're going to be coming out of this short recession. They're saying this is maybe the shortest recession that we've ever had in second quarter of next year. So if that's the case, maybe rates could move up a little bit towards the end of the year. But I think the Fed is going to be extremely careful. We need to jumpstart this economy. And any move of the Fed to raise rates would alter that path. So I think the Fed, together with stimulus packages, the Fed chairs are all pretty much united in feeling that we got to get a stimulus package out soon. No matter what that is, we've got to get something out. There's a lot of people that are hurting out there right now. And so we need to get our GDP numbers back where they have been. So if we have a short-ish recession, that would be great for our economy. The rates staying low. My gosh, what a wonderful tool for purchasing a home. I mentioned Joni Traficante. Joni, I used to be a wholesale representative for 7 years in my past for mortgages, and we did business together. And, it's just such a lever for buying a house, and it just provides for such affordability. So, the biggest thing is you might have to be a little open-minded about where you buy. Today, people are fine with sort of moving a little further away from the city. The prices are always higher right around the city. Depending on what your financial situation, you may have to move and, be open-minded, but you may not. So we're seeing a lot of people, as long as there's rail, an ability to get to work when they need to, because a lot of people are not going back right away. That's basically where we're seeing people buying and selling. We also see a huge trend in people having dual homes. Maybe they have a condo in Boston and a home down the Cape, but it's no longer a second home. It's actually their other home because they can work from there. So a lot of different trends.
Great, thanks. Peter, you get the last question, and George, you get the last comment. And then we'll wrap up.
Uh-oh.
You talked about being involved in organizations. Jack, I think, was on the board of about every organization and nonprofit on the South Shore when he was growing the business. As you grow the real estate empire and you're up in Boston and the North Shore, how does the company stay connected to the communities it's in? You can't be on every board.
Peter, that is such a great question because it's hard. I found that challenging because part of, I think, the personality of our company, especially in the South Shore, is people know a member of our family, whether it be my dad or my mom or one of me or my husband or one of my children. So we've gotten to know each other, and we are very active. So in order for us to stay active in other areas, like for instance, we're a member of the Boston Chamber. It's tricky for me to get to 7:30 morning breakfast in Boston, so it's not my first thing to do. So what I need to do is always encourage my realtors to be leaders in those organizations. So it's a little easier to encourage realtors to get involved in charitable organizations. I find that is just, it's basically, to me, I speak at our new training program, and I always say, pick something that, whether it's animals or homeless or something that resonates with you, that you're passionate about, and volunteer, make an impact. That's, give back, and that will come back to you in spades. I find it much harder to get realtors to be involved in chambers of commerce. And that always surprises me, because it always, I always think it comes much more naturally to me because my dad. So I encourage them a lot. We actually are members of just about every chamber of commerce in our footprint, and we usually have a few people that is pretty committed.
All right, George, you're on.
All right. I just wanted to thank you both, Katie and Carol. It's killing me. I listened to this whole thing. We talked about family business before. In fact, we probably joked about the different generational thing. My dad, to me, I always talked about starting a support group for family business because it was so difficult. So, yeah. And so I have two daughters that really don't want anything to do with the business. It's killing me. My Lindsay is working for me right now, and she still wants to do something else. I wish I had thought to have her. So Courtney, I really want to get a copy of this to have her see it. But she went to school to save the world, Carol. And I love that comment. The people that do the job, but also the people that make the money that can support them. And that's kind of what I've been saying to her. Somebody's got to do that job, and I'm very proud that she wants to do it. But also, if she wants to come to work with us, she can make money and also support them. So I just love this. I want to cry. Okay. I'm done. Thank you
George,
so much. Merry Christmas.
So good to hear from you. You're a special person, and I've loved getting to know you over the years. We have a lot in common, and that family business is certainly one of them. But George, I will say, you never know, because my kids all came from different times in different directions, and sometimes if you just kind of let it go, it happens the way it's supposed to. So I wish you all the best, but whatever their decision, I'm sure they're special people.
And the best part of having your kids work for you, you can hug your employee and not get into trouble with HR. Am I the only one that hates HR?
George, we're recording this.
Oh, I know. I've changed my, this is not really me today. You know that.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, I just want to keep everyone on schedule. Carol, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Katie, we really appreciated your perspective as well, and looking forward to having you involved and engaged on our board. And we're just very happy to have you here. Thank you all the attendees for joining us today and for joining us for this series this year. Stay tuned for our 2021 series. We'll have some things coming out about that in the next little bit. And please, as always, feel free to reach out to any of us at the Chamber if we can do anything to help you or assist you in these uncertain times. We are here for you and are a resource. So thank you again. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and happy holidays. And
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you, Peter and Renee. Good to see you all. Happy holidays. And thank you, Katie. Bye, everybody.
See everybody. Merry Christmas. Take
Merry
care.